Simon Doonan. I'm the creative ambassador at large for Barneys New York. I'm an author. I write for Slate.com. And I'm 60. Yes, it's my diamond jubilee because I was born the year of the coronation.
Are they going to do a party for you like the Queen?
No, because I'm very low born. I'm not an aristocrat. I don't think the Queen is aware of my presence, unfortunately. I'm very aware of her presence and have dressed like her on many occasions. And also,
Are we today? Do we have Queen wear today? No?
this is more like the kind of thing she'd wear if she was skipping through the heather with the corgis.
And you have your... Oh, no, well, that's not a... There's Liberati. He's not a corgi. Simon, now, everyone sort of knows you for the most... Well, one of the things people know you for are the very fabulous windows you've done at Barney's for how long now?
Well, I've actually done window display for, 40 years. It was one of those things that I always found very fun and entertaining. And it's very democratic, it's very creative, it changes all the time. If you do a horrible window, it doesn't matter because it's gone a week later. It's been like an incredible opportunity for creative expression for me, and I've tried every single imaginable style of installation, from minimalism to maximalism to obscenity to you name it, women in coffins, people killing themselves. I've done it all in store windows over the years.
So you could avoid doing it at home.
Exactly.
Who is Simon Doonan at 60? Talk to me about, because you're kind of, in the public's eye, and you have a big fan base. You're sort of Mr. Hip, you're Mr. Cool, and I know you think you're just a little boy from England, but what is sort of Simon Doonan's tips for not growing old like an old man?
Well, I think the main thing, genetics obviously has a huge amount to do with it. My parents were like in good shape into their 70s and early 80s. And so genetics, yes. I don't drink. I haven't drunk anything for over 30 years, so I don't drink alcohol. I think alcohol is really aging, and it also brings out sort of ugly, hideous behaviors. People repeat themselves ad nauseum, which is something you do anyway as you get older, but if you drink, then, hello, that gets worse. I approach life without any preconceived ideas. I never thought of myself as occupying a particular position in life. So, over my years at Barney's, I've been through incredible different roles. At one point I was an executive vice president. I was responsible for 4 different departments, including store design. And, I would ride on the Concorde to Europe with the owners of the company, etc., etc. But then a few years later, I had a much simpler job, and I was riding the subway to work, and I had a cubicle at Barney's because I was not in the office so much. So it didn't bother me. The idea of position and prestige, those things can really encumber you in a negative way if you're obsessed with them as you get older, because as you get older, you become less relevant in terms of culture, career. There's not a lot of people who continue to occupy a central role as they get older. You kind of age out of a lot of things, and you have to be groovy and comfortable with that. And so to be flexible, to be nimble, to not have too many preconceived ideas about life, that can serve you very, very well. I've always been sporty spice. I love to bicycle, I love to paddleboard, jogging. I used to love aerobics in the 80s. I used to go to aerobic classes with like Jamie Lee Curtis and Madonna and all those cheesy aerobics things in LA. I used to go to Jane Fonda just because I always had a lot of physical energy, and I think to maintain a certain physicality is the key to being present. Like I think of Polly Mellon, even into her 70s and I guess early 80s, she held herself a certain way. She walked in the room with a certain amount of energy. So to keep a physical presence is really important. So I believe in skipping. Like, put down the iPhone, throw away the iPad, run outside and skip down the street and be physical and be present.
You said something really important, which, I mean, I found it happened to me, and as you get into your 50s and 60s, you do, especially if you've been sort of you're in a hip business, so to speak, you do become less relevant. You know, the comedian's not as funny, the fashion person's not as style, you know, whatever that thing may be. It's really hard for people to make that change, to all of a sudden say, you know, I've been this person for 20 years with this position for 20 years. And now I'm going to spend the next 20 years being another kind of person. And it's a very hard thing for people to do. They have to have like a plan B.
Well, people are basically pussies. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand the progress of life, the series that the life that we go through. When you're young, you're pretty and you have perfect skin. You get older, you're not. You're not. And as you get older, in our culture, you become less central to the activities of the culture. Big deal. Who cares? You know, anybody with a modicum of intelligence or ability to observe things, you can see that from a very young age. People get older, they become, you know, not in Asian culture. In China, people are revered as they get older. You know, I've had Chinese friends whose grandparents die, and it's a momentous occasion. You know, we don't probably value older people enough in our society, but whatever. I don't want to be valued. Like Karl Lagerfeld said, I don't respect anything, especially not myself. Like, I think people should have a more fluid attitude to it and just look at the passages of life are there for everybody to see. They should not come as this big surprise that as you get older, you get wrinkly, you're not as pretty as you were. Big deal, so what? It happens to everybody. Be more sanguine about it, work with it. But see, I think you see a lot of people who've gone in for radical facial surgery and this, that, and the other thing because they're so terrified of getting old, but they don't go to the gym. They don't have any physicality. They're just sort of sitting there with Restylane in their face. You know, I don't understand that at all. I mean, really. So I think, like, being able to be outside, to enjoy nature, to breathe, and to, you know, to enjoy your physicality is so important. But Botox, really? I don't think so.
Now you've made a switch and you write books too, and you're now living sort of more instead of in the visual, in the verbal, right? What's your new book about?
Well, I'm very lucky because...
I'm going to close it on it, Simon. Pick up your book.
Woo!
Gay men don't get fat.
This
is
a humor
Is this
book.
a new? It's not a new diet.
No,
it's not
it's a humor
get
book.
gay, get thin.
You know, real men don't eat quiche, French women don't get fat, gay men don't get fat.
Why?
It's a humor book that celebrates the gay wisdom. It celebrates everything that's idiosyncratic and great about being gay and offers it up to straight women. See, straight women now in our culture lead very sort of masochistic, self-critical lives. And I'm often shocked and appalled at how self-critical women are. You know, dissatisfied with their appearance when there's nothing wrong with their appearance. Indulging in masochistic, painful procedures because they feel they're not passing some kind of weird standard of beauty, whatever. As gay men, you know, we have to learn to live a happy, functional, creative, interesting, multi-dimensional life regardless of what other people think. So there's something there for straight women to learn, because straight women, the organizing principle around their life seems to be what other people think. They're very self-critical and they're critical of each other, and I'm always encouraging women to treat fashion and style as self-expression, and it's not an opportunity to be self-critical and beat yourself up. You should have fun. No one's really keeping score of what you wear or how big your butt is. Just have fun, self-expression.
So, okay, what are the three things, because you are, you know, people do look at you as sort of a style person, style icon, someone. What would you say Simon Doonan's 3 tips, and say it can be for women or gay men, that do make people look okay, not perfect, not young. But how does a woman as she gets older, from your point of view, stay looking so she looks good?
Well, the key is to know who you are. If fashion is about self-expression, then you've got to understand yourself in a very literal sense. So that can be challenging for women because women, so you see it now, there's a sort of conformist dynamic going on where women all kind of end up sort of looking like the Real Housewives. You know, they're all blonde, no offense. They're all have a certain look, the plumped up lips, the enhanced rack, etc., etc. You know, that Barbie doll look with the spray tan, yada yada. We've all seen it. So the key is to figure out who you really are. And I always tell women there's three groups that women really largely fit into. You're either a gypsy, which is bohemian, alternative, you're a little bit crunchy, you love ethnic fabrics, you're just like, you're more of a hippie, in a good way, you're a gypsy. Or you're a socialite, which is a much bigger group, that's sort of like the red carpet, celebrity look, turned out glamour, dressed, you're not avant-garde, you're not experimental, you just want to look pretty. That's a big group of women I basically fall into that socialite group, and I don't use the term socialite in a pejorative way. A lot of African American women fall into the socialite group, you know, that like Mary J. Blige. They want to be turned out, glamorous, you know, nice purse, pulled together. Then there's a much smaller group that's very directional, and I call them the existentialists. And this is like the Tilda Swintons, the Daphne Guinnesses of the world, the fashion innovators, the avatars, the Diana Vreelands, the people who see the future coming and who are completely confident and really aren't interested in what other people think. So you're right, you're in one of those three groups. Some women dabble, jump back and forward, like Kate Moss, for example, who's very stylish. She can be a bit bohemian with a like vintage Victorian cape if she's going to, a rock festival. If she's going out for some fancy dinner, she could wear a vintage Chanel and be sort of turned out socialite. Or she can be completely existentialist in some Gareth Pugh or Balmain thing with pointy shoulders. So, but most women, those are organizing principles that they fall into. And once you know who you are, it's easy to go shopping because you're just kind of wardrobing that persona that you have.
And you think you should stick with your persona?
No, I think you should, your persona might change. As you get older, a lot of women go very successfully go existentialist when they get older. Like you think of the older woman with white hair who's wearing an Issey Miyake.
Well, now there's the whole Iris Apfel reading.
Iris Apfel.
Yeah.
Iris Apfel's a good example. Like, I think as you get older, you should feel very uninhibited. So it's quite natural that, idiosyncrasy, eccentricity would emerge as you get older because you reach the don't give a shit age. So why not,
In closing, young Simon, older Simon, what would 60-year-old Simon today say to 20-year-old Simon 40 years ago?
Well, when I look at pictures of myself when I was young, I look at them and I think, God, I was so cute. But I didn't feel that cute. Like, I remember I would go to like a gay bar or whatever and see all these guys and think how cute they were. But I was just as cute as they were, but I didn't think I was. So I would say, you're really cute, blah, blah, blah. But if I'd been more confident sexually and more confident the way I looked, I'd probably be dead because I would have had a lot more sex, during the late 70s, and voila. So many of my friends died in the AIDS epidemic, and I lost an entire group of friends. Most of my friends now are much younger than me because all my close friends died during that terrible period when people were just dropping like flies.
So you're lucky so you're happy to be here.
I'm totally happy to be here because I was born right after the Second World War. We lived in a 2-room flat with no kitchen and bathroom. Down this road was the biscuit factory where my uncle worked. That was my destiny. opposite our house was the jail where Oscar Wilde was in jail. So I used to think, well, since I'm gay, I'm either going to be in the jail or the biscuit factory or maybe the nut house with a lot of my relatives. So things weren't looking so great in the 1950s in England, and I had no idea that my life would take the kind of trajectory it has, and that I'd live in a big glamorous apartment with a gorgeous boyfriend and be happy. And you know, in my defense, I think I've always had some very solid ideas. Like, I was never really focused on position. I've always been focused on creative satisfaction. That was, am I creatively stimulated? I never really cared that much about money. I didn't care about prestige. I cared about whether my job was creatively stimulating to me. And I think that you can do your entire life. If your focus is keeping yourself creatively stimulated, that doesn't end. You get into some really good habits. You're curious, you're interested in a million different things. You know, that can give you a great old age. And don't be scared of getting old. We all get old and die. It's not a big surprise. I'm so shocked at how people are like, oh, I'm getting old, so please don't tell anyone my age. What, you think you're not going to get old like everybody else? I think people, the anti-aging phenomenon, like, I open a magazine, how many times do you see the phrase anti-aging cream, anti-aging? And it's obviously something that resonates with women, but is that really good? No wonder they all become weird and new age and by, you know, dream catchers and bullshit like that, because they're looking for spirituality, because they're putting anti-aging cream on their face, which is very unspiritual to think that you're somehow in charge of your own mortality. You're not. If you're lucky, you live to be 60 or 70 or 80.
Well, you're doing a great job. And we should all grow old like you. And you're not old, but you're in this great, well, we can't really see the
Oh, and have no preconceived ideas. You know, at the age of 46, a publisher said to me, you should do a book of all your windows. And I've been doing windows sometimes every week, new different ones. I had boxes and boxes of slides and photographs of windows. So I thought, oh, I guess I should. I never really fetishized my own work because it's very ephemeral. You know, one comes in, another one goes out. So I put together all these slides, and the publisher, which was Nicholas Calloway and Viking, Nicholas Calloway said to me, write an introduction. So I wrote an introduction, and he called me immediately and said, you're a really hilarious writer. You know, who knew? I certainly didn't know. I hadn't written anything since I was at school. So then they had me write the book. Madonna bought the rights to make a movie. I got another book deal right away. I got my column at the New York Observer. This was all serendipity. It was all stuff that came to me as a result of just having no preconceived ideas and being, you know, enthusiastic and optimistic. And so you never know if you're open and if you're positive, and I think stuff does come to you.
Well, it's come to you, and you've given the world a lot of stuff. So keep being creative.
Thanks, darling.
Bye.
Gay men don't get
Gay
fat.
men don't get fat.
Look what Joan Rivers said. She said it was so funny she split her Spanx. And then Malcolm Gladwell too gave me a blurb.